everybody. I hope everybody's enjoying the conference so far. I definitely am. My name is Sienna Stanislaus. I'm currently a sophomore at Rutgers University, New Brunswick.
Hi, I'm Stephanie, and I'm a junior also at Rutgers University.
And so today we were asked to introduce a very well-respected individual within the field of criminal justice. Yeah, so Joey Jackson is a nationally recognized criminal defense attorney who has for 2 decades represented individuals and labor unions in the state and federal court. I personally enjoy watching him comment politically on CNN, offering his invaluable experience and wisdom. So we can all offer a round of applause to Joey Jackson as he comes.
A pleasant good afternoon to everyone. A pleasant good afternoon to everyone. Much better, much better. So before I begin, let me just say, wow. Judge Hatchett, wow. Unbelievable. It is an honor and a privilege to know you, to be friends with you, to be family to you, and for you to be such a wonderful mentor, not only to me, but for so many people out there who have watched you on the years, not only on TV, but to do the job that you do as a lawyer. What an inspiration. And it's not only potential students you're inspiring, but just people like me who are awed by you every day. Thank you, and God bless you. To the wonderful people who put a program together like this, it's just amazing that you have such a network of people who come together for the purpose of giving back, who come together for the purpose of demonstrating to lawyers and potential lawyers and those who are in school, struggling and fighting to be lawyers, to have this kind of commitment to an organization like this, and to have people like Mark Dunham, national chairs, and to have people, Marcus, you just graduated, you're doing trials already, God bless you. To have the young people I met, what is it, you're Washington, is it McCall? I'm meeting so many people, my friend who's going to be going to Columbia soon, Davis, future CNN guy. It's amazing to see this, and so it's just as the privilege is not yours for being here. The privilege is mine for allowing me to be here and to be a part of your great day. So let me just talk to you about something that I like to talk to young lawyers and aspiring lawyers about, and that's the power of the P's. Can we talk about the power of the P's? So when I talk about that, I start with the first one, which is passion. And when we talk about passion, the fact is that, when you find your passion, it's a very important thing. And it's so important in finding that passion to unleash it. And I'm presuming that the students that are here and the students who are going to be law students, you're doing that because that's something that moves you. It's something that drives you, and it's something that's so important to who you are. Each of us has a pilot light, right? It's the reason we get up in the morning. It's the reason that we're driven to do the things that we do. And so much of learning, and I know for me, what my passion is and became, was learning what my passion was not. I took a course in college called geology, and interestingly, and this is no joke. And today it was so funny. It was very interesting. My son is in North Carolina, and he's at Chapel Hill, and he tells me he did his schedule today. And I think just as a dig to me, he's studying political science and business. He said, "Dad, I'm taking geology." Yeah. I say, God bless you, good for you. I hope your experience was much better than mine was. But it was important to me because it was about learning, right? Classrooms are laboratories of learning. And when you take courses and you get introduced to people and professors, so much of learning about what that pilot light and passion is learning what it's not. And so I could assure you that playing with rocks and studying igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary, still remember all these years later, was not something for me. But it really sparked an interest in other things that I learned how to do. And when I look at events like this and I see all the faces of hope and the faces of opportunity and the faces of the future, it reminds me of my obligation to be here because I had a mentor when I was in school who opened the way for me. And none of us, of course, as the judge has mentioned, we can't kid ourselves. We stand on so many mighty shoulders, so many other people who were kind enough and good enough and brave enough to give us the time of day, to welcome us and to assure us that it's going to be okay in the hard days, and to let us know that there will be hard days and that we have everything it takes to overcome them. And so when I was in college, I learned and discovered my passion, and that's the first P I share with you, because that is what sparks the rest of your interest, the rest of your motivation, the rest of your incentive to carry out through on all those long days, because the days will be long. And the fact is, and you've heard it said so many times, when you discover and you work in something that you really want to do and that you love, it's not work at all, right? It's not having to work a day in your life. And so I'm here to tell you that as a result of the gift that law has given me, I don't believe that I've worked a day in my life. I think it's what really has inspired me and what wakes me up, and it's the pilot light that drives me every day and twice on Sunday. And so the next P I share with you is that of performance. And the performance P is a P that, if we're going to be someplace and we're going to do something, right, we might as well be the best at it and do the best that we possibly can do every day.
Say it.
Right? And so the reality is that if you're going to show up, right, Judge, you show up with the best, right? And the fact is that when you are actually pursuing your dreams, if you're going to be in law school anyway, if you're going to be in a courtroom as a lawyer anyway, if you're going to be representing a client anyway, if you're going to be writing a brief anyway, it might as well be the best brief it possibly can be. You might as well be on the A game, right, as opposed to the B, C, or D game, because you're here, you're there, and the fact is you want to give the best representation of yourself. And so it was so interesting, and I think back to that whole performance issue, and I remember the very first day of law school, I was frightened to death, okay? And what they do in law school is those who are law students can attest, those who are lawyers already know, and those who are aspiring to be law students are about to find out. They have this thing called the Socratic Method, okay? So let's talk a little bit about the Socratic Method, and I'll share with you my experience, okay? And so the Socratic Method is designed to have you prepared, because the reality of life is that arrows come at you in various directions, and you want to be and have the ability to block those arrows and to do what you need to do with those arrows, but you don't know where they're coming from. So it's all about the next P, but preparation, right? So let's talk about the performance match with the preparation. So what they do is they'll sit you down, and there's an auditorium like this, so many different lawyers there to be. And I could remember back to that first day. So the Socratic Method, they just call on you, and they just grill you, and you don't know what you're going to be called on, so you better be prepared, right? And so very first day, I kid you not, I'm in property, okay, in the property course. Now, let me just share with you, those of you who are about to go to law school, the difference between going to law school and actually being in college. So, it was my pleasure to teach for many years. I was an adjunct professor, go to court during the day and teach a class at night. And the first day, of course, we would talk about the syllabus, and we'd talk about the expectations, and what percent of your grade this is and that is, and what research paper you'll have, and when it's due, and et cetera, et cetera. That's not law school. Law school, you get the assignments in advance, right? Well, nowadays, what do? They email them to you, they Snapchat them to you, they Facebook them to you, however you get them, right? In my days, you went, right, and you picked them up at the school, and they mailed them to you, but now we're in a different age. So in any event, what happens is they give you the assignment in advance, and you come day one prepared to rumble, okay? You come day one prepared to be prepared to perform, right, your passion. And so therefore, first day, auditorium, 250 people in that auditorium, the professor says, okay, today we're going to talk about possession. Now, all of you who are not yet in law school, you already know that possession is 9/10 of the law, right? That's been drilled in you, it's been ingrained in you, you've seen it on TV. Possession is 9/10 of the law. So what happens is that I have my assignment, I'm all good, I read the case a million times, I'm ready to go, all's great. But what happens is that they teach you in law school through hypothetical. So a hypothetical is a scenario that they give you, and they want you to respond to a given set of facts. And they teach you through hypothetical, because remember, as a lawyer, you're providing advice to people who come to you and ask you questions, right? So in asking you questions, you're going to get a variety of different fact patterns that are thrown at you, so you learn through the fact pattern. So here we are in the course, and the professor says, today we're going to talk about possession and it being 9/10 of the law. And I had read this case. And it's a case all of you who are lawyers have studied. It's a case that all of you who are going to be lawyers are going to study. And it's called Peterson versus Post. It's the seminal case as it relates to possession of property, right? And Judge knows it well. Mark Dunham knows it well. You, Mike Kelly, you're going to know it well. And so it's about this guy named Post who's chasing a fox through the woods, right? Now I'm embellishing a little bit. Just spare me, okay? So it's like 200-something years ago, right? 200-something years ago. And he's chasing a fox through the woods for weeks out on Long Island in New York. And he can't get this fox. So finally he wounds the fox. He's chasing the fox. He's running after the fox. And this guy named Peterson shoots it, brings it under control, and there's a lawsuit. And the judges have to decide, over 200 years ago, who's rewarded the property, right? Because it's an animal, it's property. Is it the person who labored and chased after the fox, or is it the person who actually shot it and brought it under control? So I'm ready. I read this case. I got my assignment mailed to me, not emailed or any of that, right? So what happens is I review it and I'm ready to go. So professor looks down at the manifest, first day of law school, and says, okay, so here we are talking about possession. To take us through this case is going to be Mr. Jackson. So I say to myself, you gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding. So what I did was I tried to be smart, right? I said, listen, Jackson's a pretty common name, right? So if I say nothing and I just sit here, I'm good. Somebody else by the name of Jackson will raise their hand and I'll be all right. So there's this big pause. Everybody's nervous. You couldn't hear a pin drop. So then the next words were the most dreaded. What were they? There's only one Jackson. So now I say, yeah. Right? So now I'm like, all right, let me pull it together. I read the case. I know the case. There's a fox. He's running around the woods. He was shot. One guy's chasing him and wants to get him. And he sues the guy who kills him and takes him under control. So the professor says to me, all right, Mr. Jackson, so I'm going to give you a hypothetical. So I say, she's got to be kidding, right? She's not going to talk to me about the case. She's going to talk to me about some factual pattern that's similar to the case, but it's not what I read. So she goes on to say, I remember till this day. She says, you come across a field of corn. The field of corn is in the woods. In that field of corn, there's no gate, there's no sign, there's no fence, there's no structure enclosing the corn. What, Mr. Jackson, do you do with it? So I said, what on earth is she talking about? I'm thinking to myself, I'm saying, she's here talking to me about corn. I thought we were talking about animals running through a forest and foxes. What, corn? So I said, corn? Well, Professor, I would boil it, right? Black starts rolling, right? Only one not laughing is the professor, right? So now I know I'm in trouble. She's like, who's this wise guy in my class? So I saw her crack a little smile, so I knew she was at least human, right? That made me feel a little bit better. And so she's like, after she, it's tough, and then she says, well, why would you do that? So I said, listen, here's the principle of law, right? if somebody owned that corn, there would be a gate, there would be a sign, there would be a structure, there would be an enclosure that would represent possession, right? And if there's no sign, there's no gate, there's no fence, there's nothing to indicate to the world that it belongs to someone, I would take it as my own, and if I would want to boil it, that would be my prerogative. Right? So she basically says, okay. And then the sweat coming down, you know how you get all these, your hot neck and everything else? And she left me alone, and I said, thank you, Jesus. So that was my very first day of law school, and it was a very interesting day, but I'm going to tell you something that's funny, is it got me through the bar exam, and I say that truthfully because I can remember taking the bar in Jacob Javits Center, right, and here in New York, and there's thousands of people taking it, and it's an earth-shattering, it's sort of like, it's one of these days, and I just couldn't help internally to laugh and to be comfortable. And when you're comfortable, and, you're prepared, because we're all going to study for that bar exam, right? We're all going to work hard for that bar exam. We're all going to do what we need to do to pass the bar exam. When you're comfortable and you're prepared, you're confident, right? And so I just was there, and I was in my own zone and everything else, and so it was all good. And so it was interesting because I take it to this place. So after that, took the bar, everything worked out. I went to start working as a prosecutor. And I'll just tell you this before I carry on with the P's. So what happens is that we get word in November, because you take the bar in July or February. So we get word in sometime in November, around Thanksgiving, the holiday. So it's either going to be a great holiday or it's not going to be such a great holiday, right? That's how it is. So what happened, when you took the bar in my day, they either sent you a thick packet, which was a reapplication packet, or there was a thin packet, which was a congratulations, we'll send you more stuff later. So here I am, I'm at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, I'm a prosecutor, whatever, and you're able to practice on a special practice order, right? You're not yet admitted, but you're able to go to court because you have a special practice order signed by a judge. So that allows you, right? Good to be the judge. It's nice to be the judge, right? So the reality is you're allowed to practice. So what happens is everybody gets word of it and they're running home to see what they open the people yelling, screaming, oh my goodness, pass the book. So at the time I was living with my then girlfriend, now wife. And so, yeah, and it happened, right? So what happens is I called home, yeah, we were living together, all right, whatever. So what happens is I call home and I say, hon, is there any mail? She's like, well, what do you mean? We get mail every day. So here it begins. I'm sweating, and she's having a good time, right? So I say, from the bar, the bar. What bar are you talking about? So I'm saying, she's got to be kidding, right? So I say the New York State Bar, the exam I took, I'm here on a special practice order. I got to get this. If I don't, there's drama. So now she says, you mean the thick packet that came for you? So I say, excuse me? She says, relax, I opened it an hour ago. You're a lawyer, congratulations. That was my finding out that I had actually passed the bar exam, right? So never let her forget that. So craziness. But in any event, as you go through life, it's a matter of, and you'll learn this, whether it's that exam, whether it's law school, it takes us to the issue of persistence. And, we in life are going to encounter so much drama. And we are going to stumble, we are going to trip, and we are going to fall. But the fact of the matter is that we're never measured by the setback. We are measured and valued by the comeback. And remember that, okay? And so the lesson is simple. when you fall, and you will, or stumble, and you will, that's the reality. If you're not failing, you're not trying, okay? Because life is tough, life is hard. If it was easy, anybody would do it, right? But the fact is that it's not. And you're here because you're special. You're here because you're committed. You're here because you're passionate, right? You're here because you are prepared. You're here because you do perform. You're here because you're the cream of the crop and the best of the best. And so when you do stumble, you trip and you fall, you're persistent, you get back up and you keep going. And that's who you are, and that's what it'll be all about. And also, in doing that, I always want you to think about and remember the possibilities. Lawyers are problem solvers. We make life better. People come to us in the most difficult times of their life, right? And they look to us for our advice, our wisdom, our guidance, and our minds when things are not right. And so that's what we do. That's who we are. That's what we represent. It's seeing the possibilities. Last story, and then I'll conclude, and that's this. You know, I had someone come to me, and as I sat in my office, and a grown man was crying. And the grown man was crying because he had been charged with attempted murder. And in being charged with attempted murder, what had happened was, right? It always depends on who you talk to about what had happened, right? So what had happened is that he was in a bar, and his wife was out of town. So he goes to this bar, and someone ends up stabbed. So someone ends up stabbed, and there are 4 eyewitnesses who say he did it. And the police officers actually got the knife from his pocket, and it had the victim's DNA. So I basically, when I was speaking to him, said, so what do you want me to do for you? Right? You have 4 eyewitnesses who say you did it, and there's the DNA on the knife that was in your pocket. So what else? And he said, Mr. Jackson, I swear to you, I did not do this. And so I said, bless you. I said that to him too. But the fact is I said, all right, so how do we even begin? He said, I swear to you, I didn't do it. Please take my case and just please look into it, please. So the complicating factor is that there was a very specific ID, right? He was in a Latin club. He was an African-American male, dark skin. He was short, he had a bald head, a purple shirt, and he was very well built. So how many other people fit that description in the club? Right? And witnesses point to him. So when I talk about the P of possibility, I'm going to tell you briefly what happened in the case. What happened in the case is I started digging and looking. And what do you know? But the knife that the police recovered from his pocket, guess what? There were 12 officers on the scene. And the very officer who recovered the knife from his pocket was the same officer who assisted the bloody victim onto the stretcher and into the ambulance. So why is the officer who's assisting a bloody victim handling a knife? Why? So now we have an issue as I'm reading, and that's an issue we call contamination as it relates to DNA, don't we? And so not only do I see that, but I look at the 4 witnesses, one of which was the one who was stabbed, and I look at all of them are known to each other. So you got a nightclub, there's 300 people there, and the only witnesses are all known to each other. That's a problem for me. Not a patron, not a passerby, not a bartender, not a security person, not a waitress, a waiter, just 4 people known to each other. And what do people do when they go out to clubs, right? 9 out of 10 times you're drinking, right? 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, whatever. You get the point, right? So 10 out of 10, right? So the point is that in starting to look at that, you know, I uncovered that they really didn't see what they said they saw. And the clincher during the trial, I could remember this, was that when the victim, right, stumbled onto the witness stand, right, who had just been stabbed, he started at the trial in front of the jury saying, your client did it, it was him, etc., etc. Well, I had his medical records, and in his medical records, you're asked when you're in the facility or when you go into an ambulance or into a hospital, what is your chief complaint of pain? He was conscious at the time, and they asked him what your chief complaint of pain was and what happened. And And he answered the question that he had been stabbed, but he also told the EMT technician and the nurse and the doctor the same thing. I was stabbed multiple times. I don't know who did it or which way it came from, right? But at trial, it's my client who did it. So the long and the short of it is that my client was acquitted. The person who came to my office and who I didn't believe in, right, because there was too much compelling evidence against him, was acquitted, found not guilty of the crime. And so the reality is that taught me a very big lesson. And that is that there are possibilities in every and everything, okay? Any and everything. And the fact is we're not here to judge books by covers. We're here to open up that book and to read and to review and to evaluate and to study and to reread and to come up with any possibility there is so that we can do our job. And so I say to all of you that you have a job to do. And that job to do is to do just that. To see the possibilities in what you do. To unlook, to take the hood and to open that hood of that car and to look at every wire. To look at every word in that book so that you can come up with solutions to people's problems. So that you can be passionate about what you do. So that you can show up and you can perform. So that you can absolutely be persistent in every single step that you take and not be deterred at all, that tomorrow will not be a better day. And so, the final thing I'll leave you with is something that is so important, and Judge Hatchett talked about it, and Mark Dunham talked about it, and I'm going to reinforce it, and then I'm going to sit down and I'm going to talk about it too. And that's about paying it forward. The fact is that all of us have an obligation to do all we can. To teach someone else, to touch someone else, to learn from someone else, and to let other people learn from us too. And you know what? Someone else doesn't have to do poorly for you to do well. We have a lot of complicated problems in this world. And the only way those complicated problems get solved is by all of our participation. The only way those complicated problems get solved is if we dig deep, and if we do our best and we encourage our neighbor to do their best and their neighbor to do their best too. And so as you go through life and you'll all be successful, I know it, I feel it, you're here, you're passionate, and you're motivated, which is why you're here on a Friday, Veterans Day. God bless the veterans of the country for keeping us safe and doing all the wonderful things they do. You're here, and you're here to make a difference. But as you make a difference for yourself, make a difference for others, and understand and recognize that you, I, and we all are here. Judge Ward, what a story. What a story. We're all here because somebody else said, you know what? I respect you, I love you, I admire you. Take that front seat. You're worth it. God bless you.